Welcome to a special episode of the Back in Time podcast. This week, we're covering a top 5 list of our favorite sports movies. And this can be any sport, boxing, football, baseball, basketball, hockey, anything I'm leaving out. Soccer, the big green, whatever you want it to be. We've not discussed this. This is totally on the fly. We're probably going to get mad at each other here. JD, how you doing tonight?
Little nervous. I mean, sports audience, for those of you that don't know us, Kyle and I both grew up in the sports world. Little League, high school, college. We played together. We were companions. We made out in the locker room. I mean,
No.
Wistful.
God.
So, I mean, you probably think that we're two just gigantic nerds, but realize that we're super cool, awesome jocks.
I would say we are super cool. I agree with that point. Now, with that being said, I think this is going to be a really tough list because I could very easily have a top 25 sports list, but I'm going to go ahead and kick us off here with number 5. And this could be entirely just because of where I grew up, but I got to go with Hoosiers, man. Hoosiers is one of my favorite movies. It kind of tells the tale of a small little high school from Indiana that makes this unlikely run to the Indiana State Championship. And I mean, call me cheesy or whatever you want, but God, it pulls at the heartstrings. It's got great scenes here from Gene Hackman. We're talking Jimmy Chipwood, the picket fence. JD, how you feel about my number 5 pick?
It's not on my list, but you're in the land of the Hoosier. Like, that's
makes sense, right?
That's your bread and butter. How it's not higher on your list. If you said that was your number 1 movie, I would still totally give you props for that. I'd say cool.
All right, so it sounds like you don't really have a problem with Hoosiers.
I saw it once. My grandfather made us watch it when we were little. I thought it was a fine movie. My number 5 movie is obviously better than your number 5 movie.
Sure, makes sense. Okay, well, let's get to your number 5 movie. What do you got?
I'm going to go with the superior basketball movie.
Uh-oh.
Through and through.
Eddie?
Juwanna Mann.
Oh, Juwanna.
No, it's not Juwanna Mann. It is not Juwanna Mann.
I about slapped you through the computer.
To me, it's a more definitive movie to my childhood. It's a future episode for sure. It stars Vlade Divac. Space Jam.
Space Jam, okay. Well, that's awesome. Vlade Divac's not in Space Jam, though.
Yes, Vlade Divac is in Space Jam. He has one line. He's in when the players think that there's a virus going around that's contaminating everybody, and he doesn't want to go into the locker room to play the game. Vlade Divac is most certainly in Space Jam.
I thought you were mixing him up with Sean Bradley.
No, I know Sean Bradley's in it.
I like Muggsy in there. I think that's a solid pick by them. Okay. All right, awesome. I mean, I don't have a problem with Space Jam. I don't know that would make my top 20 list, if I'm being honest with you, because I tend to look at these sports movies, I guess, in a little bit of a different light. I take them more seriously, and that one's a little cartoonish for me.
I had a feeling that's the way that this was going to go, because a few that I'm juggling in top spots, I'm like, I guarantee Kyle isn't even considering this movie. And I Space Jam was 4 and 5. It was a pretty close one for me. You're probably going to be pretty pissy about my number 4 choice.
Oh, boy.
But my top 3 are going to be solid. Okay.
Now, my number 4 pick, and this has made my list in a previous poll, and I'm kind of judging these movies by which ones, if I'm bored, if I'm having a bad day, if I'm homesick, which one will I watch the most? I got to throw The Sandlot at number 4. It kind of defines what a childhood looked like from that time period. It's something that I loved doing with my friends back in the day. Sandlot baseball, kickball in the street, tackle football. No pussies on my block. We were playing tackle football when we were like 6 years old, just running the block. But I mean, The Sandlot, the characters, the humor. What do you think about my number 4?
I thought it would have been higher.
It's not a real serious movie, so I guess I just don't put it at the top of my list as the best.
But let's be clear, are we saying that these are what we think are the best movies or our favorite?
These are our favorites. So,
Okay,
but
so
I look at sports
distinction.
movies. I look at sports movies more seriously though, and that's why it's not my favorite.
I'm very curious to see what your number one is going to be.
Okay.
I feel like I should try to be able to guess it.
Rookie of the year.
Speaking of number 4, no, I'm kidding. It's not Rookie of the Year.
Rosenberger.
My number 4, I'm going to go with a pick that probably very few people would include. And based solely on your description of why we are picking these movies and movies that we would sit down and we would watch, whether we're sick or we had a bad day, a movie that I know we both own, probably on DVD, not on Blu-ray. Drum roll. I'm going to say Dodgeball.
Dodgeball.
How can we can't? Dodgeball has to be included.
It is a sports movie.
It is a sports movie.
I hate your pick.
I knew you would. Audience, as these top 5 lists typically go, Kyle tends to take them very seriously, and I tend to pick movies like Dodgeball. That's not to say that I've got bad choice or taste or anything like that, but I like to be youthful in my selections. And so, yeah, Dodgeball, I think, is a great movie. The Purple Cobras versus the Joes, it's good. Versus Evil, I mean, Lance Armstrong's in it. Vince Vaughn's actually funny. Ben Stiller's throwing up in his mouth, and in some cultures, all they eat is throw up. I mean, you're the skid mark on the underpants of society. Like, okay, you may not know this. We used to walk around, me and I don't even remember the kid's name. He was a wide receiver in college, and we used to walk around the gym, and we used to do the skit from Dodgeball where "You're looking good over there, Rory." And so then we had Rory on the football team, so we always used to walk by him during lifting and workout sessions. Looking good, Rory.
Rory Fry. You can find him in the TCW championship match with me as the CEO on YouTube. I posted the clip. It's on our channel. Shout out to Rory Fry. Don't know where he's at these days.
I love me some Rory Fry. He was a great human being. I don't know. I won't say anymore because maybe he listens. Okay. But he was a football player.
Oh yeah, and track and field too. Very good athlete.
Yes.
Now let's go to number 3. This one might surprise you that it's on my list, but it's a movie that I watch over and over and over and over and over again. It's been a previous episode in our archives. Varsity Blues, man. One of my favorite movies of all time. I mean, it was an awesome episode in our archives there. We've got Mox, we've got Lance Harbor, we've got Billy Bob, we've got Tweeter, we've got Coach Kilmer. Fucking Kilmer. Man, it's such a great movie. JD, how do you feel about my number 3?
It's a fantastic pick. I love it. The soundtrack is near perfect in that movie. Yes. James Van Der Beek is right on. It really puts a great spin on high school football, especially Texas high school football in the 90s. It's an MTV movie. I have no qualms.
Okay, great. Give me your number 3. What do you got?
So I'm gonna go ahead and pull out one that we haven't covered yet. It is a 90s movie. If we do get to it, that would be fantastic. I don't know that it's necessarily up our audience's pipeline. But I love it, and to me, it's the definitive football movie, and that's Any Given Sunday.
Oh, you know what? I was taking notes. I started to write down a different football movie because I felt like you were going another direction.
I know.
I wrote down the program.
It was the program until I saw Any Given Sunday. Okay. And I loved what Oliver Stone did with that movie. The acting is fantastic. Any Given Sunday it became commonplace in every locker room. It's like any given game, and it's true. It's like every inch you fight and you fight and you fight for every little, like, I don't know. To me, that was the inspirational football movie. Like, it's a game of inches.
You know what? Yeah, funny story. You just shared in the last pick that you would go around with your with the college teammate and you'd yell over the Rory some line from Dodgeball. Well, my best friend growing up, also named Justin, we would drop a line from Any Given Sunday all the time, and it's, you gotta crawl with your fingernails for that inch.
Fantastic.
I love that line. Also, I don't do a good Pacino, but my buddy does, so it works well. Now, I will say my number 2 pick was between 4 movies, and I wanted to go with a football movie for this one. and I had to pick and narrow it down. Any Given Sunday was on my list. The Program was on my list. Friday Night Lights was on my list. But ultimately, I'm an Indiana boy.
You picked radio. You picked radio.
I definitely did.
You picked radio.
I definitely did not pick radio, but I did pick Rudy. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. It takes place in Notre Dame, which is also my favorite college football team. It was my first job ever when I was a kid. I worked at Notre Dame Stadium for 2 years, every single home game. I actually have video that I'm about to convert from 8mm onto DVD where I took it around the stadium, through the tunnel. That movie inspired me to, one, become a football player, because at that point I had really never played other than backyard, and inspired me to reach for high heights, which I could not do academically, but damn it, I tried.
Gosh, you remember we had that coach. I think he may have left before you came.
Okay.
He was the head special teams coach my freshman year, and he played at Notre Dame with Rudy.
Wow.
And Gullickson. I really don't think he lasted very long, because he used to always encourage us to drink after games. But he used to always tell stories about Rudy in the locker room. He'd be like, Rudy was a little punk bitch.
That's what Joe Montana said.
And I was just like, and you're a fat slob.
Yeah, that's funny, because Montana said something similar in an interview. Like, what was Rudy like? I mean, was he really all out there? He's like, no, the guy fucking sucked. We didn't like him. Nobody did. And then he writes this book, and it becomes a major motion picture with freaking the kid from the Goonies. I mean, what can you do? Sean Astin, love that guy. But let's get to our your number 2 pick, because you're coming on strong with Any Given Sunday. What do you got at number 2?
I have like 6 or 7 movies that I'm like tossing around in my brain. So maybe we do an honorable mention to just name off some other sports movies that we don't get to necessarily talk about. I'm gonna play this close, and I'm gonna give an actual pick, and I'm gonna say, for me, Mighty Ducks was always that kids movie that I loved and cherished. It's in our archives, and I loved reviewing it. Okay. I mean, we went to the Mall of America in college before a football game, and it was just like I was just eating it up. Like I can't skate. I've never been a hockey player. I don't follow hockey, but I loved everything about the Mighty Ducks.
Okay, I will
except
say,
for Charlie Conway.
I will say I'm surprised that it's on your list. I'm not mad though, because it was either The Sandlot or Mighty Ducks, and if you remember our top 5 90s kids movies, that was our dilemma. It was trying to figure out which one to put at 1, and we finally landed on The Sandlot in our archives. Check that episode out. But I am surprised it's on your list because of your hatred for Charlie Conway. I didn't think this was a movie that you absolutely love. That surprises me.
I don't know. Being that we put each other on the spot with this episode, audience, we literally were just like, hey, let's boom, do a top 5 episode. There was so many other movies that I wanted to include at this spot that I think were so like deserving, like Basketball or Joanna Man. But I think Mighty Ducks is a legit, solid movie that transcends generation.
Okay. So here comes the number 1. So I started with Hoosiers. I went to The Sandlot. Then we went to Varsity Blues. And then to Rudy. Number 1 in our archives. My favorite sports movie of all time. It's the Rocky Balboa Italian Stallion Rocky from 1976. Also won the Academy Award for Best Picture that year. I love it, man. I love the story. I love the struggle of Rocky Balboa being a sub 500 club fighter to rising up to take on the champion of the world and go the distance with him. I think it's a very basic storyline, but it's a really emotional film. It's well executed. I think it's well acted in most parts. And I think it holds up too, surprisingly, for a movie that old.
So I interestingly enough, I wanted my number 1 to be a boxing movie, and I wanted this to be on my list, but the Rocky Marciano movie, I loved. This isn't my pick.
Okay.
John Favreau, Judd Hirsch I never. There's too many little lingering little letters there. Was always one of my favorite boxing movies. It didn't make my list. It was going to be number 5 and 4 and 3 and 2. My number 1 movie, though, most certainly is also Rocky.
Okay.
And I mean, and it has to be, which is why we did Rocky as an episode in our archives. I think everything down from the music to the acting to the atmosphere to, you know, him coming up as just a roughneck mafia enforcer to a world champion boxer, and then the fact that he loses in the end. It just, I think it's a great movie, and it's like the epitome of a sports movie.
Yeah. I agree. So I like it. You know, Space Jam, Dodgeball, Any Given Sunday, The Mighty Ducks, Rocky. I think we got 2 solid lists here, man. I'm happy with the episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you drop us a line at Back in Time Pod. What do you think of our list? What movies did we leave off that should have been on there? Maybe you guys got a different list. Drop us a comment or put a little GIF in there. Let us know if we missed one. And if you have any ideas for future top 5 episodes, hit us up. Again, at Back in Time Pod. I'm at KAutry29. Justin's at Unjust Justin. You can subscribe for free to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Castbox. If you're listening on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell. That's going to make sure you get these notifications the minute we post them. But for now, we're going to wrap up the episode, and we'll be back next week with an all-new episode. See ya!
I totally wanted to include Brewster's Millions, but I didn't.